Welcome back, AP Psychers. In today's video, we are not going to overview any new information or even go back and review previous information. Instead, I want to introduce you to a resource that I've been periodically working on over the course of the past several weeks, and I've finally gotten through all 10 units, or at least the 8 units that will appear on this year's AP exam. And I'm going to spend the time today in today's short video overviewing how it works, why it is valuable, and how it could benefit you in your upcoming review, but also on the actual AP exam itself. If you were to look at Google Classroom and scroll to the very top underneath the schedule, you will notice a new document, a document that was posted on Thursday morning. So I'm here on the classwork tab, and I'm referencing right here, right above the April break work. It's entitled Mr. G's AP Psychology Term Database. And when you click it, there will be a Google Doc file, which brings you to this. This document is rather lengthy. It's almost 400 pages long, and it usually takes a few minutes to open. So if you plan on using this, I advise having this document open ahead of time. So for example, if you were to do a in-class FRQ that involves terms from previous units, open this up before you start answering the question so that it doesn't affect your timing. Same is true if you actually end up using this on the AP exam. What I've done is I've gone through all of the slides for the whole course, and I've screenshot the slides. I've included the name of the slide here in written text. I've included any type of terms that might be embedded in the slide, like iconic and echoic, two really kind of peripheral terms, but nevertheless, I've included them here. And then when appropriate, I've indicated possible synonyms. Like some people call short-term memory, kind of loosely be called working memory. So the AKA is taken directly from that and placed here in text. I've also gone and indicated what concept map each of these are on in the right corner of each of these tables. So if you were to use this, it would tell you which of your concept maps you can find information on. But what this is designed to do is for you to Control F, which if you're not familiar with Control F, creates a search where, let's say you're in the middle of the AP exam or reviewing, and all of a sudden the name Lawrence Kohlberg comes up. He's the name from the most recent unit. He's the individual that identified the levels of moral reasoning and the moral development levels. Well, you would type in Kohlberg's name and it would bring you to any slide where Kohlberg came up. So you could be in the middle of the AP exam or reviewing, writing an in-class FRQ or at-home practice FRQ, and you would be able to see the exact slide that was presented to you, in theory presenting exactly what you wrote down in your concept maps. I understand some of you have your concept maps literally locked in your locker right now, and at least in the near future, that might be inaccessible to you. So as you review or do the in-class / at-home FRQs, you'll be able to use this resource that will hopefully expedite the process of searching for terms and not really go too far against your pacing and timing. Really, in theory, if you're looking something up, this is about as fast as you're going to do. I wouldn't advise using Google. I think when you Google things, you might get definitions that are a little more technical, a little bit wordy, worded in a way that doesn't necessarily represent what we did in class. Where if you use this, if you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I don't really remember what assimilation is, another term from this most recent unit, well, all of a sudden I typed in assimilation and it brings me to the slide where assimilation was referenced. If you're sitting there on the AP exam or on a practice exam and you're curious about any term from the whole course, really, you can just type it in. Like, all right, wait, what was the hypothalamus? You type in hypothalamus. It brings you all 9 references to the hypothalamus, I guess, and 5 references. Hypothalamus, you can hit enter again. Hypothalamus is referenced on that slide. Hypothalamus is referenced in a few different slides. This is back from Unit 8 where we identified actually 2 different regions of the hypothalamus. So whatever it is that you're looking at, whether it's a question on an in-class exam, a question on multiple choice, a question on the practice FRQs, this document can be a huge resource to you. There's a few caveats about using this, though, that are very important. I'm going to go over just briefly. But this is a resource that I've made for you. It's rather lengthy, but it could be really beneficial for those of you who do not have access to your concept maps or even find flipping through your concept maps challenging. On the actual AP exam, they're not going to tell you what essential task the terms come from. They use a different sequence than we use. So one of the things that I've done is tell you what task these terms come from. They're not going to do that on the AP exam. You're just going to see something like, primary drive, and you're not necessarily going to know exactly where to look. But if you type in primary drive into this document, if you want to just rely on what this says here, you can use the screenshot of the slide, but it also tells you what concept map to look at. So if you have your concept maps out in front of you or near you, you can easily look that up. The College Board recently shared this really long, lengthy, it's 50 plus page PDF that I will eventually go through in more depth with you, but I want to bring your attention to one of the slides incorporated in this presentation because it relates directly to what I've been putting together. So in addition to using your long-term memory, what you have stored away, you can use class resources and class notes on this year's AP exam. But as you know, it's a timed exam, so you don't want to be spending all this time Googling or flipping through lots of pages. That could be class notes or study guides. That could be previous assignments or assessments, calculators, which you probably won't need. But then there's this little point here that I think is very important for us to focus on. Shared study notes must be downloaded to each student's device to prevent collaboration violations. The College Board is going to be very meticulous about trying to find students who are collaborating in any way, shape, or form on this exam, which means if 100 people log on to this document in the middle of the AP exam, whether it's with the chat feature or just simultaneously looking at this document, this would likely be considered a violation. So if you're going to use this, and I really advise trying it out on some of the upcoming practice FRQs, please file and make a copy. Have your own copy on your Google Drive that nobody else can access, only you. So on the day of the AP exam, you can open it up, you know exactly where it is, you won't get in trouble for violating any of the collaboration rules. And in addition to that, once you have your own copy, you can edit this. And for example, if you do look at your concept maps or whatever, and you notice that you'd like to add something, there's a whole portion down here for student notes. So you can add whatever information you think would be beneficial so that when you use this document on our material or on the AP exam, you not only have the slide presentation and the exact screenshot, but also any notes that you want to incorporate. But that's very important. I'm actually going to take this document off of Google Classroom completely. I am going to completely delete this document. You will not have access to it. I'm going to make a copy on my own drive and then delete the original so that you cannot access it. Meaning if you have not made a copy onto your own Google Drive or downloaded a PDF or whatever it is, you will not be able to access this document on the day of the exam. So it's pivotal that if you find this database useful and valuable, which I undoubtedly think it is going to be, you make a copy on your Google Drive as soon as possible. And just to reiterate this, the College Board is being pretty adamant that just being able to Google search things isn't really going to be beneficial. So I really wouldn't waste any time Google searching unless you're down to one bullet and it's a bullet that we didn't cover, it doesn't appear in the database, it's nowhere in your concept maps. Like, sure, at that point, give it a Google search. But otherwise, you really should just be using your concept maps and our material.